The question I hope to answer today is the Casio Duro MDV106-1AV still a viable option in 2022 for the sub $100 dive watch category? Well, let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, today in front of us we have the Casio Duro MDV106-1AV. Unpacking the specs here, you have a case size of 44mm with a case thickness of 12mm, measuring lug to lug at 48mm with a lug width of 22mm. Water resistance to 200 meters. The movement that's being housed in this Casio is the Casio caliber 2784. The initial band that was provided with this watch is a resin band. As for the bezel, it is 120 clicks unidirectional bezel. Taking a look at this case here, you can see the high polish finish. You can also see that's pretty consistent on the crown as well. You can also see here the coin etch bezel that's going to allow for easier gripping of that bezel. And then also the flat mineral glass that's going to contribute to that 12mm of thinness. Flipping the watch around, you can see that the other side is finished exactly in the same manner. Although on this side is more evident the dramatic tapering of those lugs. That's what allows this watch to wear extremely comfortable on the wrist, and given that illusion, this watch is smaller than the specs would imply. Flipping this watch over, you can see that screw down back has a brush finish that's pretty consistent with the top side of this case. In the center of that screw down back, you have the iconic logo that dubbed this watch the Marlin. If you look closer, you can also see those short stubby lugs. That is what allows this watch to wear smaller than the specs would indicate. Now to see what your $50 gets you. As we start to get into the macros, this is where QC starts to show its ugly head with the Casio Duro. You start to see some imperfections and particles in that dial, and even on the bezel you'll start to see some blemishes. Now, it is not all bad with this dial. The choice of hands in conjunction with the raised indexes, allowing for easy legibility. That is also complemented by the slope chapter ring that gives this dial a dynamic visual effect. You also have that date window with that chapter ring around it that's contributing to this dial's overall design. One of the things I would like to touch on is the quartz movement that Casio decided to go with for this watch. If you take a look at that beautiful red second hand, as it's making its way around and it's ticking, you would notice that it hits on every single marker. That is something that typically you would have to spend a couple of $100 in terms of a quartz watch to be able to get this kind of quality. Usually with these lower end quartz watches, you tend to find that the second hand is pretty misaligned, and in some cases you'll get lucky and you'll have half of the dial from 12 to 6 where the second hand tends to hit every single marker, and then from 6 to 12 coming back around, the second hand usually tends to fall short. But in this case we can see that the Casio Duro does not suffer from that. Furthermore, this movement has a battery life expectancy of 36 months. In terms of the accuracy, you should be able to expect between 5 to 10 seconds minus or plus. What I can say is that over the course of a week of wearing this watch, since I set the time, I have yet to lose any time at all. The second hand is still ticking right along with the clock on my phone. Of course, this is a quartz movement, so this is about as accurate as it's gonna get with analog. Taking a look at this watch on the wrist, in terms of the wearability, that 48mm lug-to-lug length is going to contribute to the comfort of this watch, and that is further emphasized by the dramatic tapering of the lugs. Now, in terms of the flexibility that you have with the Casio Duro, I feel like this watch has the ability to be put on a NATO strap the same way you can put it on a leather strap, and if you're able to even find a bracelet for this watch that will marry it perfectly, I think this watch is gonna be able to adapt to any scenario that you put forth. I like the fact that this watch can be fun but yet practical. And of course you have that Casio name, Casio being notorious with durability and reliability, and I think that the Casio Duro is no exception. Following up on the water resistant of this Casio, it is rated at 200 meters of water resistant, and of course there is no diver stamp with this watch, and at $50 I don't think you can really expect that. But this is a Casio, and that brand is synonymous with durability and reliability. With that said, you can take that to the bank. I find it hard to believe that with Casio's reputation, that screw down back and that screw down crown, that this watch wouldn't hold up to that rating. Alright, with the specs out of the way, one of the things I would love to see Casio do with this watch in 2023, headline with the 10-year anniversary at 39 millimeters. I think that would be a very hot piece to put out into the market. Alright, that was my message to Casio. Now to answer the question that I initially asked at the beginning of this video. Is this a viable option in 2022? You know, I think that for a dive watch under $60 with the value and quality that the Casio Duro offers you, I think this is definitely still a viable option, and I would still recommend this. I think that for, you know what, about 58 bucks on Amazon, this is actually going to be a better option than purchasing one of the Timexes in that price range. The durability of this, the visual appeal of this watch, the flexibility of this watch, hands down, I still think this is a viable option in today's day. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, Laz. I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the video. If you haven't already subscribed, let's go ahead and help this channel grow. Drop a comment and a like below to get this algorithm to push this video out to the masses. There you have it, guys. This was my take on the Casio Duro. Still 10 years later, it's going strong and still a viable dive watch under $100 in 2022. See you guys in the next one.